Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome back to Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add vintage vibes to your modern life. We're your hosts, Jackie
and Gonzalo. Thank you for joining us today. So today we're talking about 3 accidents, and I'm using air quotes, that became mid-century inventions. Really, it is either discoveries or inventions that came about because of a random accident or happenstance. But first, Jackie, how was your week?
My week was good. Actually, I feel like I mentioned wanting to grow an herb garden a couple episodes ago. Well, It's spring, and I've got an herb garden.
Yay! Wait, do you already plant stuff? Because it's supposed to be cold next weekend.
I did already plant stuff, but I planted them a while ago. I'm bringing this up out of order. Right now, though, they're going through their first thunderstorm, so hopefully everybody's okay. But I know I was getting so many mixed signals from I'm in a North Texas gardening group about like when to plant, but it seemed like most of the stuff they're talking about is don't put seeds in. I was transplanting whole plants. So I like the soil temperature stuff isn't super relevant. I just had to make sure that like they get transplanted. Oh, okay. So they've been in for a couple weeks. This is their first big like rainy day. So I'm going to go out and check on them afterward. But it was so, and I love that this whole thing really started because I was really mad at how expensive mint is. So instead of spending $5 on that tiny little plastic thing of half a cup of mint that looks pathetic, I spent $200 on dirt and raised bed planters and compost, and now I have my own mint garden. But I'm growing mint, basil, rosemary, thyme, and sage. Not all together in separate planters, because the mint has to be on its own, because otherwise it'll just take over everything, is what they say. So I'm thinking, if nothing else, the mint's going to make it, because apparently mint just takes over everything, is really hard to kill, and is basically a weed from what people are saying about it.
Interesting.
The basil I'm already prepared to lose in the winter.
You can bring it inside, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like I don't have it in something I could bring inside. It's in a raised bed, so it's like completely open at the bottom. I guess I could transplant it into a pot and bring it inside, but I have cats who like to eat plants, so I can't actually put plants in the house. And then the rosemary, thyme, and sage are all in one raised bed planter together because they all get very similar watering needs, and they will come back. They should be able to hang out as long as I keep them warm in the winter for our years to come. The basil, when it bails in the winter, I was actually thinking that like in the fall I can just replace it with cilantro, which apparently prefers cooler weather, and that can just be my little annual planter. So it'll be like basil in the summer and cilantro in the winter, and I'll go back and forth. I like cilantro. That's the face you're making is the face I make when people talk about parsley.
Parsley has no flavor.
No, it has a lot of flavor, and it sucks, and it ruins everything. Everything it touches.
No, I think you're thinking cilantro.
No, cilantro is delicious, and I can eat it raw. I can pick up bunches of cilantro and just chew on it. It's so good. But anyway, I'm well on my way to being the kind of fancy lady who can just go out into her backyard and trim off some fresh herbs for the whatever I'm making. Well, I'm going to make my own pesto from now on, and I'm never buying pesto again, I've decided. I have all these recipes pinned on, like, things to do with extra herbs and how to, like, hang them from the ceiling to dry and, like, all this cute stuff. I'm going to be so cool.
I'm excited for you to have freshly grown herbs.
So now I'm going to be in my gardening phase. We'll see.
You're entering, people are exiting their winter arc, and you are entering your herb arc.
Yes, I am. But so that's the most exciting thing. But anyway, how was your week?
Good. I don't know if anything exciting happened.
Anything plant related?
Nothing plant related. No. I think there was something plant related I was going to talk about, but I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah, we talked about, okay, my HOA finally approved changing up my fence, so my gardener came and changed my fence. And I asked him about, like, if he would help me with my garden, make it look nicer. But he said yes. So we talked about what we're going to plant in the front lawn, and it's a little late for planting flowers, apparently. I don't know how planting works. We'll talk about that. And I'm excited to make it look like more of a garden where an adult lives and not like the house at the end of the street that no one wants to approach.
Right.
But no, I'm excited for that. Also, we had our I need to talk a little bit about food talk because if not, it wouldn't be our episode.
Mm-hmm.
But we had our annual like college friends get together last weekend, and I don't know how we got to this. We're talking. It's literally just 4 guys hanging out. We were supposed to go golfing, but it was raining, so instead we decided to smoke some food on the smoker, and I couldn't eat meat because it was Friday. So we can't. I was like, we can't smoke meat.
Could
so
you
we
smoke
ended up
salmon?
smoking. We did, and it was delicious.
Nice.
We smoked some amazing salmon, and then somehow we got into like a lunch conversation. It's like, oh, I'm hungry. What should we eat for lunch? And I go, why don't I just make some pizza? There's no meat in pizza. And they're like, what do you mean make pizza? And I'm like, oh, I'll just make the dough, and we have to go run an errand anyway. I was like, I'll make the dough, and then by the time we come back to the house, it'll have risen, and we'll make pizza. And they go, you can do that? And I go, yeah. And it takes me like 10 seconds. And then my friend wanted to know the recipe. But the problem is that my family's pizza dough recipe isn't like measurable. I mean, I guess it is, but like I don't know the measurements. I just know it's 2 Pyrex cups full of flour and 1 Pyrex cup full of water, or most of it, and then a little bit of oil, a little bit of this, and a little of that. So he's like, "Can I watch?" And I go, "Okay." So he watched me make the dough, and he goes, "How much are you using?" And I go, "I don't know, about this much."
I hate recipes like that.
As mentioned before in the podcast, I don't like following recipes.
I have to
just
follow
guidelines.
recipes. Yeah, I love old family recipes like that are like, fill up my green bowl with onions, and you're just like,
I want to learn my mom's empanada filling recipe, and I asked her for it. She goes, "I don't know. Just watch me make it one day." I'm like, okay.
You have to watch and take notes.
My sister recommended that I record it.
Oh yeah, just like film her doing it once, and then you can take it later. That's funny.
So, but anyway, we will talk about food stuff in the episode, but not immediately after.
Well, that sounds like a very fun weekend.
It was. It's. I love that weekend. It happens once a year. It should happen more often, but we're all adults
with lives and stuff.
Yeah, being a kid was so much easier. Everyone out there, don't grow up.
Well, that's actually a great transition into our first item in our main segment.
Yes, it is.
Speaking of never growing up.
Speaking of never growing up. Before, though, we talk about the first accident that led to something for kids. The inspiration for this episode actually came from an Instagram reel by @HowVintage titled "Accidents That Changed the World Forever." Not all of the things in that reel are here. Actually, only one of them is. But this is all about inventions that came about because someone did something not intending to do the invention, if that makes sense. So we're going to start with a toy, right? Or kind of. I don't know. Is Play-Doh a toy?
I guess not in the technical sense. It is, I don't know. Would we call it crafting?
I don't know. Because to me, crafting is like, I made this and now I'm going to hang it on the fridge.
Right. Not, I'm going to put it back, take it back apart and squish it back into the container and build something else tomorrow.
It's like Play-Doh is like moldable Legos.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Legos are toys.
Yeah. Yeah, then it's a toy.
So Play-Doh is toy. Everyone, okay, that's official. So I guess we should really start with the beginning. So an accident that brought around Play-Doh. So the origin story of Play-Doh, it's not really an accident as much as like life improvements almost killing off a business, and then the business rebranding itself before rebranding was cool and becoming hugely successful.
I'm intrigued.
Yes, this brings us to the Cuddle Products Company. And Cuddle is spelled Kutol, and the entire outline, I in my mind pronounced it Kutol until the very end when I saw that it was pronounced like cut all. So I had to mentally go back. But anyway, we have to go to Ohio for this. Hello, Ohio. Ever since we did our episode on the Lesser Home, I keep stumbling back into you for mid-century stuff. This company was started in 1912, so way back, and they made soap. Today, it is still a privately owned company and manufacturer of skincare products. It specializes in hand soaps, hand sanitizers, heavy-duty hand and face cleaners, and specialty skin products. And it is still family-owned and has been for over 100 years, with third and fourth generation family members at the helm. Today, Cuddle manufactures hygiene products for industries including education, healthcare, food service, industrial, automotive, hospitality, and transportation. But that's not what you guys came here to listen about, right? And it's not what we came here to discuss. We actually need to go back to the 1930s for this one, when Cuddle was manufacturing a putty that was used for cleaning wallpaper, like really cleaning the coal residue off of wallpaper. Because pre-World War II, most houses were using a coal-burning stove or element to heat up their spaces. And the problem here is that coal creates ash or soot, which then would deposit into the house and make things dirty. So enter scene with Cuddle and its wallpaper cleaning putty. It's actually a cleaning product that was produced after the owner of Cuddle, Cleo McVicker, real name, worked out an agreement with Kroger Grocery, who was looking for a heavy-duty cleaner. Now, Cuddle developed a pliable, non-toxic, non-staining, reusable modeling compound. And if that sounds familiar, that's because it essentially developed Play-Doh.
Fascinating.
Yes. So after World War II, the world started to transition into cleaner ways of heating the home. So like natural gas and electricity reduced the need for coal heating. And a benefit of these new techniques was that without coal heating the house, we no longer had the coal soot on the inside of the house. So strike one for Cuddle wallpaper cleaner. Also, the introduction of washable vinyl-based wallpaper led the market for wallpaper cleaning putty to decrease. It just wasn't needed anymore. So strike two for Cuddle cleaner.
So there's no more need for wallpaper cleaner, but how did it become a toy? So things were looking gloomy for Cuddle products in 1956. Joseph McVicker, Cleo's son and employee at Cuddle, learned from his sister-in-law that she was using the wallpaper cleaner in her kindergarten class as modeling clay. So yay. For teachers. She persuaded her husband, Noah McVicker, and Joe to rebrand and sell it as a children's toy instead. Rainbow Crafts Inc. was formed in 1956, which was a subsidiary company, and with minor alterations to the cleaning putty formula, created what is now known as Play-Doh. Originally, it sold only off-white 1.5-pound boxes of the new modeling toy, but soon switched to gallon buckets of primary colors yellow, red, and blue, each with corresponding color lids. This is also where the name of the company came from, because the primary colors meant the kids could mix the different doughs to create any color of the rainbow.
Which I'm going to take a stance, sorry to interrupt, but do not mix Play-Doh. I can't stand it when people mix Play-Doh.
Why? Because then you have to buy more Play-Doh?
No, because then it's dirty. I like my Play-Doh to be separate into I was that kid.
You're that kid, and then you put the colors back in the color containers, and then you start
exactly, and then the lid has to match the color of the dough inside.
In 1957, Rainbow Crafts created a 3-pack of 7-ounce cans for the retail market, and soon Play-Doh was being sold at Macy's and other department stores. A limitation of this early Play-Doh was that when it dried, it became white. So in 1957, the company hired chemist Dr. T.N. Liu to improve the formula. In 1960, the new formula was developed and is still considered an industry secret. On this year, the company split, with Cuddle products remaining in the skincare industry and Rainbow Craft becoming the sole creator of Play-Doh. McVicker hired engineers to develop a way of playing with Play-Doh that could extrude the putty into various shapes and designs, and this was called the Fun Factory.
Yes.
In 1964, Rainbow Crafts expanded into Europe, selling Play-Doh in Britain. In exchange for 2% of sales, Play-Doh was advertised in on the Captain Kangaroo TV show, which greatly increased sales. In 1965, the patent for Play-Doh finally was awarded to Rainbow Craft Inc. General Mills bought the company for $3 million, equivalent to over $29.5 million in 2025. The company eventually changed hands several times until the 1990s, at which time Hasbro acquired all rights to Play-Doh and Play-Doh accessories.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that Play-Doh had a mascot?
I didn't. Okay, well, let me rephrase. Before researching, I remember playing with Play-Doh when I was a little kid, and I remember there being a little, something. It wasn't just, the word Play-Doh. There was something above the Play-Doh. I just didn't remember what it was.
I feel like I only remember the word Play-Doh, but apparently the original packaging was illustrated with children on it, and then in the mid-50s, it changed to a pixie, like an elf mascot, And then in 1960, a replacement mascot called Play-Doh Pete became the face of the toy. He was a cartoonish boy wearing a smock and a beret, and he remained the mascot until 2000 when he retired, though he went through some changes throughout the years. And then,
His hat changed and stuff like that.
oh, cute. Since 2012, the mascots are the Dodos, two anthropomorphic Play-Doh canisters with eyes that come out of the lid.
Yeah, they're kind of freaky. Like, it literally is like a cylinder. You know the yellow can where the Play-Doh comes in, and then the lid is like sitting on top, and between the lid and the edge of the can are two eyeballs.
Cute.
No, not cute. Creepy. More than 2 billion cans of Play-Doh have been sold between 1955 and 2005. And it has become part of lists like the Century of Toys list, which is a roll call of the 100 most memorable yet creative toys. It originally came in 4 colors: red, yellow, blue, and white, and now has over 60 colors, right? And there's a lot of benefits for Play-Doh. It's not just fun toy, right? It helps kids develop fine motor skills because you're playing with your hands, right? And it's calming for some children. Playing with it can ease tension. Just think about whenever you're stressed out and you grab the stress ball and you start squeezing it. Same deal.
Makes sense.
It enhances hand-eye coordination and also encourages creativity, which I think is something that all children should be exposed to a lot more. Yeah, so Play-Doh is trademarked, but you can make your own, quote, modeling putty toy at home by combining flour, salt, cooking oil, water, and food coloring. And I've totally done this before, and we'll put the recipe in our notes.
Does it dry out, or does it stay if you keep it in an airtight container?
I don't remember. It was 30 years ago.
Fascinating. Neat. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Oh, so some fun facts, and then we'll move on. To mark Play-Doh's 50th anniversary, Demeter Fragrance Library created a limited edition fragrance inspired by Play-Doh's distinctive odor for, quote, highly creative people who seek a whimsical scent reminiscent of their childhood. And I kind of want it, but also don't. That same smell since 1956 has remained mainly unchanged, meaning that the smell of your parents' Play-Doh is the same as the one that you can get at the store today, or maybe your own Play-Doh from when you were little. It's a sweet, slightly musky vanilla fragrance with slight overtones of cherry combined with the smell of salted wheat-based dough, which is not what I would describe it as. I would just describe it as Play-Doh smell.
Yeah.
And contrary to popular belief, Play-Doh is not unhealthy to eat, but also, like, don't eat it.
Yeah, don't eat Play-Doh, and you probably shouldn't eat the next product either.
No, you shouldn't. Because we are going to be talking about a trademarked item again. I'll say the hook and loop fastener.
Yes.
That's not the trademark name. We'll find out the trademark name in a second.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until I started working in retail and realized that the name of this product is trademarked and you can't say it. And
Yes.
only people in retail understand what hook and loop means, honestly. I'm not sure like customers off the street do, but anyway. This product comes out of a hike, a dog, and those annoying prickly burrs that get caught up in your pants and shoelaces when you walk through grass. All the way back in 1941, the story goes, Swiss engineer George de Mestral was out on a hike, or hunting trip, depending on the source, in the Alps with his dog. Upon the end of the trip, he noticed that his clothes and his dog's fur were covered in burrs. Becoming curious, he examined them under a microscope.
Sorry, I make little notes into the outline, and then Jackie doesn't. She's just laughing at my commentary.
Gonzalo says, "I guess this is how I know I'm not a scientist because I would never even think of doing that." And noticed that they all had these kind of hooks on them. Basically, he saw how the burrs attach to things like clothing, fibers, and hair. He saw the possibility of binding two materials reversibly in a simple fashion if he could figure out how to duplicate the hooks and the loops. And thus, the hook and loop was born, eventually to be known as Velcro, which is a trademark name.
Yes.
Hook and loops were nothing new, but in nature, in most applications, you have one of each and that's it.
Yeah, so like the seats just have one hook, and then the loop will be like your pants fibers. But what is hook and loop and Velcro? Well, like Jackie said, it's a trademark name. Actually, it's called the hook and loop fabric. And the fastener consists of two components: a lineal fabric strip with tiny hooks that, quote, mate with another fabric strip with smaller loops attaching temporarily until they're pulled apart. And the word Velcro is actually a portmanteau of the French words velours, which is velvet, and crochet, which is hook. So de Mistral spent the first 10 years of his career after the accident researching how to do this, because apparently it's not really easy creating synthetic furs. So he traveled to Lyon, which was at the time the weaving capital of the world, to make his invention, but cotton frayed too easily, so he eventually landed on another great mid-century product, nylon, which I feel like we should probably make an episode on just nylon.
Yeah, we probably could.
Well, he found that nylon thread, when woven in loops and heat treated, keeps their shape. However, the loops have to be cut in just the right spot so that they could be fastened and unfastened many times. So, almost giving up, he had a new idea. He just took a pair of shears and cut the loops, the tops of the loops, and thus created hooks that match with loops. It took 8 years to create the machinery that makes this. And in 1951, he submitted a patent in Switzerland, and also is when he created Velcro SA, which today is known as Velcro IP Holdings LLC, or simply Velcro Companies. And this is like the trademark holder of the word Velcro. He eventually made it to the USA in 1957, and in 1959, Velcro Corporation products were displayed in a fashion show at the Waldorf Astoria, and by 1978, which is kind of a rule breaker part of the episode, his original patent expired, which led to a flood of low-cost limitations from like Taiwan, China, South Korea into the market. So non-Velcro Velcro.
Mm-hmm.
There is a couple of limitations, not very many, but a few. The tearing of the separation of the Velcro can make noise, which is useful against pickpockets, but not useful if you are the U.S. Army in combat, because the pockets that had Velcro on it could give away position. Originally, the Army complained also that their name tags would fall off, the loops get dirty, they don't fasten as well, and the big issue, like I said, was the noise, which the Army actually, after much research, came up with a very simple solution: buttons.
Going back to the original, if it ain't broke.
Pretty much.
So there's some fun advertising tidbits here. So columnist Sylvia Porter made the first mention of the product in her column, Your Money's Worth, in August 25th, 1958, writing, "It's with understandable enthusiasm that I give you today an exclusive report on this news. A zipperless zipper has been invented. Finally. The new fastening device is in many ways potentially more revolutionary than was the zipper a quarter century ago." Wow. Such optimism. So today, the company continues to manufacture and market the fastening system. Originally envisioned as a fastener for clothing, today Velcro is used across a wide array of industries and applications, including healthcare, the military, land vehicles, aircraft, and even spacecraft. In 2017, Velcro released a Don't Say Velcro campaign in an attempt to keep their brand name distinctive from other hook and loop fasteners, to help keep their trademark protection. Which is funny and didn't work at all because, again, like I said, I had no idea until I worked in retail when we weren't allowed to say Velcro that you can't say Velcro. Like, that it was like, I had no idea it was a brand. I actually just thought that's what it was called. But I
feel like we've had that before in the episode. I forgot what we talked about that had a very similar issue like that. That they tried to like, it was Xerox. And they tried the whole campaign to like, don't say Xerox, say copiers.
Because it just, we use it as a verb and it's, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And no, it's Velcro. Sorry, Velcro Corp.
So common uses of Velcro are, it's popular in clothing where it replaces buttons or zippers, such as shoes for children who have not yet learned to tie the shoes. Used in adaptive clothing, which is designed for people with physical disabilities, the elderly and the infirm who may experience difficulty dressing themselves due to an inability to manipulate closures like buttons and zippers. It's used in nuclear power plants and army tanks to hold flashlights to walls, and in cars to bond headliners, floor mats, and speaker covers. NASA makes significant use of hook and loop fasteners. Each space shuttle flew equipped with 10,000 inches of a special fastener made of Teflon loops and polyester hooks and glass backing. In orbit, it's used to temporarily hold objects and to keep them from floating away, which makes sense. And there's a patch inside astronauts' helmets where it actually serves as a nose scratcher.
That's like the fact of the podcast, right?
That is the funnest fact we've ever fact. That's great. Nose scratcher.
Some more fun facts, though.
That's such a great idea. I'm sorry, I'm not over it. That would be so annoying if you have a fishbowl over your face.
It's a problem that I didn't think existed, and now I'm like, yeah, like as soon as I read it, it's like my nose started itching, and I go, yeah, if I had a helmet on me, I wouldn't be able to scratch my nose. And it's not like it's a motorcycle helmet where you can like open it in the middle of work, because if you open it, you die. So Velcro jumping, though, is something that's a fun fact as well, because this is a game where people wearing hook-covered suits take a running jump and hurl themselves as high as possible onto a loop-covered wall. Have you ever done this?
No, but I remember seeing this on TV now that you've mentioned it.
I've so done this. It's so much fun.
How do you get down? Someone has to pull you off?
I don't remember. Okay, so I remember doing this at Project Grad. Did you go to Project Grad?
No, I skipped it.
Oh, okay. So for those out there, Project Grad was like an all-night lock-in that our high school did when we were in high school a million years ago. That like I think it was like after graduation, like the night after graduation, like they took us all to like they bussed us to like a funplex place with like arcade games and stuff. And anyway, you were there all night. But at one point they had a little course with these walls, and you had to put on the Velcro suit, and you jumped, and I made a running start, and then I did a backflip, and I ended up on the wall upside down. I don't remember
how I got down.
But David Letterman immortalized this game during February 28th, 1984 episode of The Late Night with David Letterman on NBC. That's by him wearing the suit and going. So, for our last thing today, though, one more accident led to possibly the most popular kitchen appliance ever. But also, there's a little bit of tech talk in here, so I'll try to like skip through that because some of it I just don't understand because I'm not a scientist.
I'm actually really excited about this one.
We are talking about the microwave oven.
So what is a microwave? It's an electric oven that heats and cooks food by exposing it to electromagnetic radiation in the microwave frequency range. Basically, the waves produce thermal energy, heat, in a process known as dielectric heating, and it heats up food quickly and efficiently.
I like to call that process magic. But anyway, let's go back to the 1940s for a second, okay? So actually a little bit longer, 1920s and 30s, because we kind of have to talk a little bit about what the waves are, which I really don't understand because I'm a teacher for history.
And not for science.
But couldn't really have any sort of radio waves to heat up things until the development of the vacuum tube radio transmitters around 1920, which by the 1930s were being used to heat up human tissue in an early version of like thermal therapy. So not like nefarious ways, but like for like therapy. And in 1933 Chicago World's Fair, Westinghouse Electric Corporation demonstrated the cooking of foods between two metal plates attached to a 10 kilowatt or 60 megahertz shortwave transmitter. However, early patents on inventions that use radio waves to heat up food proposed a radio frequency of like 10 to 20 megahertz, which is much, much bigger than what we now call, quote, microwaves, which is where the name of the microwave oven comes from. And all of this also couldn't happen until someone invented what's called a cavity magnetron, which is not an evil transformer. It's actually a little product that makes the production of small electromagnetic waves possible, and was even used during World War II for radar applications. So, in the 1940s, the Megatron makes its way to the US, and this is where we start kind of seeing microwave ovens will kind of start to happen. This is where the accident happens because a company named Raytheon gets awarded the contract to manufacture the magnetron. And in 1945, we have a little accident with an American self-taught engineer from Howland, Maine named Percy Spencer, who was an employee at Raytheon, and he accidentally discovered that the magnetron has a heating effect because while he was working, he had a candy bar in his pocket, and he noticed that the candy bar started to melt the closer he got to the magnetron. So, he discovered it was the magnetron tube that was emitting the waves responsible for melting the chocolate. So he did what everyone else would have done, right? He created a metal box in which he could direct the magnetron and test it to see if that heated the food. And bingo bango, it did. So even though it was not his intention to create a microwave oven, his storage location for his afternoon snack led to the creation of a kitchen appliance staple that is seen in most kitchens, dens, dorm rooms, offices, and even sometimes campgrounds. So after applying for a patent and getting a prototype going, in 1947, Raytheon, which the company Spencer worked, built the quote, Raider range, which was the first commercially available microwave oven. And it's almost 2 meters, so almost 6 feet tall, 5'11" to be exact.
Wow.
Weighs almost 750 pounds and costs, or at the time, $5,000, which is about $70,000 in 2024 money. And this thing consumed 3 kilowatts, about 3 times as much as today's microwave ovens, because we use about 1,000 watts. Anyway, there's one in a ship, and I put a picture on the drive. But in 1952, Raytheon licensed this technology to the Tappan Stove Company in Ohio, Moore, Ohio. And in 1954, the early commercial model was introduced, which consumed 1.6 kilowatts and sold for $2,000 in 1954, which is about $23,000 today, which is still very expensive for a microwave. In the 60s, Japan's Sharp Corporation began manufacturing the ovens, and here's where we see the introduction of the turntable to promote more even heating. And then in 1965, Raytheon tried to expand the Raider range technology to the home market, and they were able to create a popular home model, the countertop Raider range, in 1967 at a price of $495, which is about $5,000 today. So we're starting to get a little bit closer to modern day microwave times.
Sort of.
However, the Raytheon model differed from the Sharp models because it did not have a turntable. The modern microwave actually comes from the 1960s after a company that was actually an American defense contractor developed a new configuration of microwave ovens, which is short and wide, which is the shape of microwaves today. Because before they were narrow and tall, or sometimes hinged on the top, so not a front loading type device. Anyway, this company also developed the first microwave that could survive a no-load condition, meaning that you could put empty, like you could run it empty. Because I don't know about you, but I was always taught to never run it empty because it might explode. And apparently that's because nothing is there to absorb the microwaves. You look confused. Did you never?
No, I never heard that, but it also never would occur to me to like turn the microwave on with nothing in it.
I always kind of wanted
like
to try
preheat
to see
the
what
microwave.
happens.
Though I do bet there was a lot of that was probably a thing because people were if you imagine you've never had a microwave before, you would probably want to do stuff like preheat it or you would just use it like an oven that's faster. You don't know the nuances yet. Boyfriend told me a story once of like when they first got a microwave, or when his parents first got a microwave, his mom exploded something because she didn't know you couldn't put metal in it because that wasn't like common knowledge yet, and like there must have been a crazy learning curve adapting.
I remember the floor of the microwave getting hot because I remember touching it once when I was a little kid before we had one with the turntable and burning my hand.
Yeah. Yep.
So. But now that we talked about our lives in the past, what about them being popular today?
Yes, so through the years, especially starting in the 1980s, microwave ovens increasingly became a standard fixture of residential kitchens in developed countries. By 1986, roughly 25% of households in the U.S. owned a microwave oven, up from only about 1% in 1971. That is a big jump.
Yes, and wait for it. Because 10 years later...
1997, statistics indicate that 90% of all American households own a microwave oven. Good for them. Yeah, look at that. That was 20 years and it's almost 100.
Yeah.
Microwave ovens usually cook at a power between 600 and 1200 watts, so 0.6 to 1.2 kilowatts. As of 2020, the majority of countertop microwave ovens, regardless of brand, sold in the United States were manufactured by the Midea Group. There are some health concerns. Microwaves are non-iodizing radiation, so they do not have the same risk as X-rays or other types of ionizing radiation, which is good. Microwave energy will not leak from a microwave in good condition. A damaged microwave often may present a risk of microwave energy leaks, which can heat human body tissue in the same way they heat food, which is terrifying.
It's so terrifying. Like, I understand that, like, of course, it's gonna the body's gonna react the same way as like food because let's face it, it's not that far off. But but like to accidentally like burn yourself, which is what they're not trying to say that you're gonna accidentally cook yourself. Like they're saying you're gonna accidentally burn yourself if there's a crack on the door.
That makes sense. There is little cause for concern about excess microwaves leaking from ovens unless the door hinges, latch, or seals are damaged. And to ensure that microwave ovens are safe, manufacturers are required to certify that their microwave oven products meet the strict radiation safety standards. So here's some tips on safe microwave operation. 1. Follow the manual. Always follow the manufacturer's instruction manual. Use
Yes.
microwave-safe cookware. Don't operate a microwave oven if the door does not close firmly or if it is bent, warped, or otherwise damaged. And as an added safety precaution, don't stand directly against an oven. And don't allow children to do this for long periods of time while it's operating.
Yes, so don't pull a Gracie Hart and when the door doesn't close, jam a spoon onto it. That was a deep dive reference. Did you catch that?
No, what is
Miss
that?
Congeniality.
Oh, wow. Yeah, sorry. I just rewatched that last year, too.
Yeah, well, apparently you didn't
Apparently
pay attention to the kitchen scene.
No. There was our microwave at work in the break room broke once because apparently the fan in the ceiling damaged. So it wasn't dispersing the microwaves properly. So
Interesting.
someone microwaved something and it like focused all the microwaves on one little part of
on the food?
Yeah, instead of microwaving the whole food, it just like burnt one part, and that we were like, that's weird. And that's what turns out what happened is that the fan in the ceiling stopped spinning.
She means the ceiling of the machine.
Yes. The ceiling of the microwave oven.
There's so many microwave ovens at school that we have to have stickers on them to remind people that they are a fire hazard, so you cannot walk away from a microwave oven that's on. Like, they make us put stickers on them that says, do not leave microwave running unattended. Anyway. Speaking of food, though, a couple of fun facts about the microwave ovens, because the first food that was deliberately cooked by Percy Spencer was popcorn. The second that he did was an egg, which exploded in the face of one of the experimenters, which I find hilarious. Also, I hope they didn't get burned.
Yeah.
But I find it like, imagine like look, I just created this invention that heats up food. Look, poof. It's like, is this a prank? But also an early radar range was installed and remains installed and functional in the galley of the nuclear-powered passenger or cargo ship, the NS Savannah.
Neat.
Yes, and now that we talked about a ship that is currently still afloat, I feel like we should move on to this etiquette segment. So, Jackie, what do we have today?
So my etiquette segment today was inspired entirely by our Mad Men episode. I found a section in our favorite, Amy Vanderbilt's Guide to Etiquette and Gracious Living, or whatever the full title is. From chapter 20.
It is Amy Vanderbilt's Complete Book of Etiquette, a Guide to Gracious Living.
Thank you. So this is from chapter 20, A Man's Manners in the Business World. So it's basically a whole chapter on do's and don'ts and general manners of how you conduct yourself in a office setting. And I just picked the first 4 paragraphs because it's really long and there's a lot of irrelevant stuff. Well, I guess we're going to decide if it's irrelevant or not while I go through these 4 sections. So, when does a man rise? In business, a man does not rise when his secretary enters an office to take dictation, although if she's newly assigned to him as his personal secretary, he does rise to greet her and shake her hand if she offers it. If he's at his desk and a superior, man or woman, enters, then he rises and waits until he is asked to seat again or the caller leaves. If a male coworker enters the office, he does not rise unless perhaps to greet him after an absence. So it's kind of mixed signals because she says it's courteous for a man to rise for any man caller except a job applicant in the non-executive capacity. So basically, you sit at your desk unless a superior comes in or you're greeting somebody that you haven't met before.
Mm-hmm.
So who precedes whom? When leaving a room in a business office, a man always steps back to allow his superior to go first if the other is about to leave too. If there seems to be some delay, you have to ask permission to go first. And then here's a quote that I just kept in Amy's words. From the standpoint of superiority, top executives certainly have the privilege of leaving before inferior women employees, but I have noticed that, even in business, most gentlemen step aside, no matter what their capacity, to permit the women to go first. Amy goes on to explain that this is not a bad idea because it's hard for a person to have one set of manners for business and another for home, and women do take precedence in this respect in social life.
Huh. Okay.
So technically at work, you leave in order of superiority, but you can let the women go first at work anyway, just because you don't want to get out of the habit in real life.
Okay, I'll take that.
Here's a better Mad Men tie-in, the etiquette on smoking in the office. So a superior, man or woman, calling upon another employee may smoke without asking permission. But an outsider may not smoke in the office of someone else unless he is asked to do so. And it makes a bad impression for such a caller to ask permission to smoke if he's there on his own behalf. So you just have to deal with it unless someone says, like, have a cigarette.
Care for a cigarette?
Yeah.
Oh, when I worked in an office, I always wished that people could still smoke in an office. Not because I smoke, but I just feel it looks cool.
I know. The aesthetic alone. It's a shame they're so bad for you. Anyway. Last one is on referring to a man's secretary. So a man's relationship to its secretary should be friendly but purely business basis, even after years of association. In very informal offices, a secretary is sometimes called by her first name, but to an outsider it seems less businesslike and perhaps a shade too intimate. If a man calls a secretary Mary instead of Miss Jones, the temptation is for everyone else to call her Mary too, so that she is deprived of the dignity of her title. If your office has a first name precedent already set, then at least refer to the women on your staff as Miss So-and-so to visitors to the office. So let it be, Miss Jones will show you out, not Mary will show you out.
Ah, okay.
And those are my 4 little snippets of business for a man's manners in the business world. What do you think?
I like him. I think they're funny. I will say I agree with like leaving an office, ladies leave first. I just feel like it's good etiquette. I never realized that it was because people aren't able to keep 2 separate types of etiquette, but it makes sense. I, however, was taught that you always stand up regardless of who. Like if you're being introduced to someone, you never shake hands while seated down.
Right, that's why she said that you stand up if you're shaking hands or meeting somebody. There was a part in there, like, but I guess if someone, your subordinate comes in, you can stay sitting. That's kind of what she said.
I get, I don't know. I always, like if I guess, I don't know. Because I'm thinking back of when I worked in an office and it's been years. But like if my boss would come up to me, I typically wouldn't get up if he had a question for me, unless I was already standing because I had a standing desk. And it's not like I sat down to talk to him. And if one of my interns came up, I still wouldn't get up either. I guess I never followed. I didn't know there was an etiquette to standing up. But if someone new that I never met came around that were being introduced, I would always get up. And like to this day, if I'm sitting down and I'm introduced to someone, I get up to shake hands.
Yeah, I think this is one of those etiquette tips that is gone now, but that I don't hate.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like the idea of, like, standing. Like, this reminds me a little bit of, like, standing when new people are coming to the dinner table. Like, if you're at a restaurant. People don't really do that.
No, I
don't hate
like
it.
to. I'll stand up, especially if, like if it's, like, a big dinner table and, like, women get up. Ladies get up. Sorry, I should say ladies. I'll try to. But then sometimes I feel awkward if I'm the only guy doing it. But I like them. I think we should keep them. I think we should bring back the smoking in the workplace, even though not for me, but like I just want the aesthetic. I want to walk into the teacher's lounge and
a cloud
it
of
be
smoke.
like a cloud of smoke. Yeah, I want that. Not always. I just want it once to say that it's happened, and then that's it. It should be like a one day, like bring back the 50s theme at school or something like that, where people are smoking in the teacher's lounge.
Well, maybe one day they'll invent a cancer-free cigarette, and that'll solve all of our problems.
I don't think they will. But
anyway, well, I like these 2. I think they're like a twinge fancier than our life today, but I'm okay with a twinge fancier. So
yeah,
I say we keep them.
I say so too. Well, it looks like with that we have landed the plane. But before we do that, we wanted to do a quick cabin announcement because we will be releasing this episode on Easter weekend or the Friday before. And that means that we will be recording on Easter weekend. But instead of recording, we decided to spend some time with our families this weekend. So we will not have a new episode next week. We come back on, what date was it, Jackie?
May 2nd.
May 2nd. So that will be our next new release episode. So thank you all for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at MCL Podcast. Instagram is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions. Send us a DM anytime, and you can also contact us through the Send Us a Text Message feature in our show notes.
Yeah, so send us some fan mail. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.